Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our extended coverage of Hurricane Dorian. This is Jason Anthony, reporting from his studios in Boyle Hill, Brooklyn. We are waiting for the 10 o'clock edition of West 2 News on CW 18 in Orlando, Florida. We will Agenda Free TV and our fellow contributor, Andy Randomness.
Well, right now, after I'm done watching this episode of The Prime Family, I was able to find a live stream of the NBC affiliate for West Palm. I'm going to watch it for a bit.
And if you're planning to travel to and from Fort Lauderdale's International Airport, we have to inform that the airport will cease operation tomorrow Monday at 12 noon until future notice. And as we've been reporting all afternoon, some rail operation will be suspended all week. Brightline has suspended service. We don't have. Let me see. Tri-rail. And when we refer to Tri-rail, okay, bingo. Okay, so that means that the Tri-rail also is suspended tomorrow, Monday, September 2nd. And as of tonight, there's no service also. And also, Lynx is monitoring the track of Hurricane Dorian pretty closely because this might potentially affect service. And it is 9:59 in the evening. The next update will come within the next hour or so. And this will be our sources. For Central Florida, we will use Wedge 2 News. For South Florida, we're going to use Local 10 News and NBC 6. So we're going to be on the air for let's say an hour and a half, an hour and 15. Because we want to receive that 11 o'clock update. And remember, if you are in flood prone areas, please evacuate. The time is running out. Okay, we're waiting for the news feed. Wish to come back in.
Do what you do best. Let us begin.
And the time is 10:01. Hey, my apologies. We have problems with the feed.
Parts of Flagler County joined Volusia and Brevard counties with evacuations. Tomorrow morning, those include anyone beachside in low-lying areas faster. And the National Guard has activated 4,500 soldiers and airmen ready to aid in the response and efforts.
We have team coverage with crews all across Central Florida, showing you the impacts county by county. We start with Chief Meteorologist Tony Badolfi and the critical first alert forecast.
And Jim, at this hour, we usually show you the cone and then the update on the model. So that's what we will do tonight. Let's show you the update as of the 10 o'clock advisory. You can see still moving west there at about 5 miles an hour. Hurricane hunters are back in there, and you can see that pressure right around 915 millibars, and the winds are, that's the eye-popping statistic right there, folks, 185 miles an hour. So the turn will gradually begin late tonight and tomorrow.
We're having issues with the feed. Is looking like blurry. But let's see if we get it up and running back again.
Final warning. First flight 1220 with service to Dallas.
I need somebody help, not just anybody help. You know I need someone.
Okay, we have a little bit of buffering there.
That's the eye-popping statistic right there, folks, 185 miles an hour. So the turn will gradually begin late tonight and tomorrow. The big question mark.
Apparently there's issues with the Wish 2 News on live feed on the website wish.com.
John Wick. Let's do this.
Let's try it again. Okay, it's buffering.
That is the West Palm Beach affiliate for NBC right now.
The eye, this is a good 3-hour loop, and look at how slow this storm has moved in that many hours, not very far. That's why it's slowing down. So here's the update on the tropical storm force winds now. Palm Coast to the land to the villages around 8 p.m. on Tuesday. I-4 back towards New Smyrna Beach Tuesday 8 a.m. A little bit earlier down to the south. You can see by Monday 8 o'clock tomorrow night we are talking about the onset of tropical storm force winds. And keep in mind, Brevard County is under a hurricane warning. Tropical hurricane watches are up for Flagler and Volusia counties. Also means that hurricane conditions are possible here. Look at that storm surge potential, 4 to 7 feet. We'll take a look at the rest of the counties. We'll work inland as we come up here in the next couple of minutes. Jim, Back to you.
Tony, thanks. People in parts of Brevard County will have to evacuate beginning tomorrow morning. The mandatory evacuation includes the barrier islands as well as other flood-prone areas. West 2's Kelsey Thorne is in Cape Canaveral, where one day has made a big difference.
Well, it is a much different mood out here on the barrier islands than it was just 24 hours ago. People here are taking this very seriously. Many people have already evacuated, and the people we spoke with who are still here say they plan to get out first thing tomorrow morning.
And front doors with sandbags.
As Hurricane Dorian continues its path towards Florida, many people on the barrier islands aren't taking any chances.
We're getting out of Dodge. Absolutely.
It's a good decision.
The mandatory evacuation begins Monday at 8 a.m., but signs of Dorian could already be seen Sunday as large waves crashed against the coastline. Cape Canaveral Hospital evacuated all of its patients Sunday afternoon and says it won't reopen until after the storm.
There will be people here monitoring the situation, but we wanted to make sure people were, all of our associates, our providers, and our patients are out of harm's way.
Many people who live nearby say they plan on leaving first thing Monday morning.
But we'll go early and just go slow.
Still, some say they're going to try to ride it out.
We're gonna just board everything, all our windows and doors up, and just stay.
Now, the Brevard County Sheriff's Office is asking people to take this evacuation order seriously. There will be shelters that open tomorrow at noon for anyone who needs a place to go if they're evacuating. In Brevard County, I'm Kelsey Thorne, West 2 News.
Volusia County begins mandatory evacuations of the beachside, low-lying areas, and mobile home parks tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. At the same time, shelters are opening for those who need that protection. West 2's Claire Metz was out and about all day where people along the coast are watching, waiting, and worrying.
Volusia County beaches closed for business. Beach ramps, beachfront parks shut down. Beach safety is flying double red flags, which means no swimming either until the threat of Dorian is past.
God's always on our side. We may lose a little bit.
At the very popular Krabby Joe's restaurant on Sunglow Pier, it's a last hurrah. Most of the guests local. The ocean is already kicking up big waves. That relentless pounding is what can undermine the structure. Back in 2016, Hurricane Matthew, following roughly the same path Dorian is predicted to take, tore off 180 feet. They can't afford to lose much more.
We reinforced the whole front of the pier from the parking lot up to the building. It was all new, brand new concrete pilings. We've concreted some of the pilings here that we're standing underneath.
The wind. That's the big thing.
Not far away from the pier at Seabird Island Mobile Home Park along the Intracoastal, many will abide by mandatory evacuation orders, but not John Beardsley, at least not yet.
If it's real close, there might not be an island, you know.
And you'll be here, though. That's why I'm worried about you, John.
You know, if things are going to disappear, well, then so will I.
He means leave the park, which we hope he does. At a local marina earlier, we watched as owners secured boats, ran into folks still boarding up with a sense of humor at the CBD business downtown Daytona Beach. It's an unnerving time as we wait to see what Dorian dishes out. Wind, waves, water in Florida, we don't have to be reminded of the potential for disaster. Be safe. In Volusia County, Claire Metz, West 2 News.
Bridges between the mainland and beachside will remain open until winds are sustained at 39 miles per hour. But again, the beachside is under mandatory evacuation starting Monday morning.
Governor Ron DeSantis is keeping in close contact with emergency managers across. Last update, the governor says although the hurricane is moving slowly, everyone needs to be prepared, listen to the warnings, and take action if necessary.
Safety comes first, and you don't want to mess with the storm that is going at 185 miles per hour.
The governor will hold his next hurricane briefing tomorrow morning.
Evacuation shelters are open across Orange County, and already some people have moved in to ride out the storm. Those shelters have emergency backup generators, but as West 2's Greg Fox shows us, out-of-state power crews are rolling in to restore any electricity that might be lost at your homes.
Blown transformers like this one, when Hurricane Irma swept through 2 years ago, are still fresh in people's minds. You remember, desperate for power.
Power companies around the state, including the Orlando Utilities Commission, has called upon mutual aid power companies from around the country to come in and bring in their equipment to get the power back on as soon as Dorian is out of Central Florida.
The strike teams began rolling in late Sunday, filling up parking lots at the Convention Center and Rosen Center Hotel. Most are line techs and tree trimmers from as far away as Connecticut, Indiana, Texas, and Nebraska.
Orlando decided they wanted help, and we decided we were coming right away, so that's why we're here as soon as we are. So whatever Orlando needs us to do, we'll do our best to help them.
Some were in Florida for Hurricane Michael last year. No one knows how long they'll be here.
Nope, not yet. Just got here. We've pretty much been on the road since Thursday, so they haven't gave us that information yet, and see how bad the storm gets, I guess.
For those who don't want to be without power or believe their homes are not strong enough to hold up to Dorian's winds, they're already showing up at shelters that opened across Orange County. This one at Edgewater High can hold and provide meals for 450 people.
Our doors are open for anyone who doesn't want to ride out the hurricane at home. They're more than welcome to come here, and we'll give them a roof over their head and some snacks and food.
It's a definite plus for us, so we got to go where there's protection.
The shelters are also providing nurses and security. In Orange County, Greg Fox, West 2 News.
Orange County will keep the shelters open as long as necessary. You can bring a sleeping bag, a single cot, or single air mattress. You can also check WESH.com for a list of any pet-friendly shelters.
We have more resources for you at WESH.com to help you prepare for any conditions that we might face, from evacuations to the hurricane's latest track, the effects you'll see county by county. All the critical information is there.
And if you haven't already, download the West 2 News app. Be sure to turn on the alerts so that you know right away about any changes in the forecast or any other important emergency information. Preparing for a hurricane can be a stressful time for anyone, especially children.
What you can do before the storm hits to ease their fears. Plus, it's a tool that can be critical when severe weather strikes your cell phone. But what happens when the power goes out? What you can do to conserve your battery.
And as Dorian rips through the Bahamas, we are getting our first look at the storm's power. We have those new videos coming in right now.
Ford salutes first responders, active military, veterans, and retirees with a special offer.
Vanguard investors are all about numbers, but not the numbers you'd expect. It's the little piggies she needs to coax out of bed. That presentation she knows she'll crush. And the reservation she'd never miss.
Brad, Nationwide is America's #1 pet insurer, so let's run a flea flicker. We'll motion the retriever, hand off to the cat, and leave the defense chasing our tails.
Why does your dog have a shell?
I'm not sure.
Con diabetes tipo 2, la solución aún está en mí. Por eso elegí Trulicity, que no es insulina. La insulina la produzco yo, y Trulicity ayuda a que mi cuerpo la libere para reducir el azúcar en la sangre.
While West 2 News is in a commercial break, it is 10:15. We have that. The National Hurricane Center has issued a 10 o'clock update. Catastrophic Category 5 Dorian beginning to cross the eastern portion of the Grand Bahamas.
Con una sulfonilurea o insulina aumenta el riesgo de niveles bajos de azúcar en la sangre. Efectos secundarios incluyen náusea, diarrea, vómito, dolor abdominal y pérdida del apetito, lo que causa deshidratación y podría empeorar problemas renales.
Hacer más está en mí. Reducir mi A1C también. Pregúntale a tu médico por Trulicity.
At Toyota Orlando and Toyota Claremont, get our lowest prices of the year during the National Clearance Event. This Labor Day weekend, drive this 2020 Corolla LE, $129 a month. Toyota Orlando and
Meanwhile, we have issues on our New York City subways, and is that Uptown 2 and 3 trains are running local between 72nd Street and 96th Street. While we're investigating train brakes that were automatically activated at 96th Street.
Video continues coming in from the Bahamas tonight. Hurricane Dorian made landfall as a powerful Category 5 storm at 12:40 this afternoon with winds up to 1 an hour. The National Hurricane Center says the arrival of this storm poses a life-threatening situation with hazards that will cause extreme destruction. And at some point, the storm is expected to turn north and ride up the east coast of Florida. If the track stays as it is, we'll likely feel the impacts Tuesday. The West 2 team of meteorologists will have an update in just moments. Nearly 5,000 utility workers from across the country are gathered at Daytona International Speedway.
They are ready to help Florida recover from potential power outages from Hurricane Dorian. Crews from 34 states and Canada have been getting checked in and processed. They will ultimately be sent out to restore electricity for Florida Power and Light.
This storm is largely unpredictable, and we're watching it very closely, so it's important that we're pre-positioning these crews in several different areas throughout the state, largely on the coast of Florida, with the idea that they're closer to those areas that we expect the largest impacts, to be able to get them out into the field as soon as it's safe to do so, to get our customers' power back on safely and as quickly as possible.
Crews will prioritize restoring power to locations like healthcare and public safety facilities before moving on to residential areas.
You want to make sure your phone battery is charged before we feel the effects of the storm.
There are plenty of other power-saving tips for conserving your battery life. Tech care company Asurion says turn off Facebook. The social network can be the #1 battery hog. Minimize location services, so find out what apps you're using and that's using your location and turn them off. Then turn on the low power mode and lower your screen brightness.
As we continue to track Hurricane Dorian, we have a team of meteorologists standing by to help you prepare.
Chief Meteorologist Tony Ranolfi is here along with meteorologist Eric Burris. So guys, how about tonight? What's the latest with Dorian?
Well, what we normally do this time of night is talk about what's going on with the afternoon model runs, and most of them are fairly consistent. One or two of them a little bit closer to the coast, not by much though. So really, I think the overall thinking is not going to see much of a change in the cone, even with the intensity.
A little jog left or a little jog right is not going to change, but until it moves over top of us. You know, that's kind of the concern. Does it move over shore or does it stay off the water?
And that's what we're going to be literally babysitting hour by hour. We've got the Miami radar ready to go. We're using that right now. We've got the eye on the eastern side. As it does continue to jog up to the north, of course, we'll switch it over to our local radar and we'll get you the latest information literally hour by hour. All right, let's go to the cone. We're going to show you what it looks like right now. As you can see, we do have a wind here that is very, very powerful. Of course, it hasn't really come down much at all. 185-mile-an-hour winds right around the center of this storm system, and it is slowing down, 5 miles an hour now, and we're going to have to watch this one until it starts to make the turn. The longer it takes to make that turn, the closer it could get to the eastern side of the Florida Peninsula. And because of that, and because of the uncertainty, we're seeing a good number of tropical storm watches going up. We've got inland Volusia, we've got Seminole Lake Orange, Polk, and on into Lake counties there that are under tropical storm watches. Hurricane advisories, we have warnings and watches now along the eastern side of the peninsula. Remember, with a warning, you only get 36 hours before the onset of hurricane force winds. Speaking of hurricane force winds, hurricane hunters are in there right now. Look at that wind they just found, 177 miles an hour. Still an incredibly powerful storm system that is not that far off the coast of South Florida. That's why we're watching that very diligently. But when you take a look at the cone now, and the movement, this is a long loop, so it's really not moving that fast, and it is slowing down, so it should begin to make the turn here as we get you into the day tomorrow. And then as it does so, the question becomes, well, how close to the coast does it get as it's moving from south to north? We're going to have to watch that turn and the proximity to the coast, because you take a look now at the winds from the center of the storm, red as hurricane force, 45 miles east side of the eye, and then the distance across across with the tropical storm force winds close to 240 miles with this storm. Now closing in on West Palm Beach, about 130 miles to the east of there. There's the eye on the Miami radar. You can see how it's not moving very much at all. It's not stopped yet, but it's definitely slowing on down, so we like the trend that we're seeing there. The wave action, fierce. Look at that, almost 30-foot waves on the northern side of that storm. Because of that, we have storm surge advisories, watches and warnings up and down the coast, and we are expecting, at the very least, some potential storm surge of 4 to 7 feet. There are a slew of other things we need to talk about now within our viewing area. With more on that, here's meteorologist Eric Burris.
All right, so we were talking about that storm system lifting to the north, but the big question, of course, is now, when would the worst weather arrive in my area? And so this is kind of the best guess that we have, all right? In the orange shaded areas, that's Brevard County's southern communities, that's extreme east Osceola County. We're looking at Monday evening around 8 p.m. For the I-4 corridor, basically Daytona Beach through southern Volusia County, back through much of the metro, it's going to be Tuesday morning that you start to see those more intense winds inside of the feeder bands. And then for the rest of town, including Flagler County and further to the north up towards St. John's, Duval, and any of our western communities, it's going to be later in the day on Tuesday. Do want to show you the American computer model just to kind of zero in on some of these impacts and take a look here across your area. Monday evening, we're starting to get into tropical storm force wind gusts, but Tuesday morning, you'll wake up to strong tropical storm force wind gusts as that storm system gets closer, and of course as Dorian's feeder bands start moving through. But here's where things get interesting. Noon Tuesday, we start talking about wind gusts in the 70-mile-per-hour range, and Tuesday evening into the 80 and 90-mile-per-hour range. That's why Brevard County is under a hurricane warning, because as Tony said, hurricane conditions are possible within 36 hours. And then in addition to that, of course, as Tony mentioned, the storm surge running 4 to 7 feet. Now, further inland, storm surge isn't a concern, but we're still concerned, of course, with tropical storm conditions, the gusty winds within those feeder bands, and quick, heavy downpours moving on through for Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties. And for the western communities, Marion, Sumter, and Lake counties, tropical storm conditions possible, really the gusts in those feeder bands. That's going to be kind of the bigger concerns for you. So let's put it all together. Let's just kind of look at the timeline. And again, tomorrow is when we'll start feeling those impacts, especially across Brevard County. But Tuesday and Wednesday, they're highlighted in red here because we've declared those first alert weather impact days for obvious reasons, because there's a hurricane very near or into our area. Too early to tell its exact path, but Tuesday, Wednesday, the rough days, and then Thursday, Friday into the weekend, thankfully, the sun comes back out, Tony.
All right, so again, watching various models with different scenarios. Bottom line is your hurricane preparations should be close to finished. If you're in Brevard County, you should be done. If you're in Flagler and or Volusia County, you have a little bit of time during the first half of the day tomorrow. We're going to break down a whole bunch more county-by-county information for you, all straight ahead.
Brad, Nationwide is America's #1 pet insurer. So let's run a flea flicker.
Meanwhile, West News is in a commercial break. We are continuing to see what is going on.
Ask your doctor about Emgality and imagine more migraine-free days.
Let's check Twitter.
Sipping the hot and cold water, it feels like, somebody's poking directly on the nerve. I recommend Sensodyne. Sensodyne goes inside the tooth and calms the nerve. My patients come back to me and say, doc, it really works.
Those who follow Agenda Free TV, they are live on Periscope, YouTube, and on Facebook.
Every day, news happens right here in the cities, the suburbs, and neighborhoods we call home.
Live in Orange County,
Osceola County, in Lake County. We're live in Volusia County. Every day, we seek the news, get answers, reveal the truth. Every day, we search for the sunshine, chase storms, help plan your day. Sunrise is live. We are live. Every day, stories live to be told, and we're here to tell them.
We have that
live, late breaking.
The governor of the state of Georgia has issued a mandatory evacuation for all coastal areas starting at 12 noon tomorrow, Monday.
It didn't seem possible for Florida State's opener to go worse than last year's, but the Noles found a way. On Saturday, FSU blew an 18-point lead and didn't score in the second half, lost 36-31 to Boise State. A meltdown made worse by the apparent advantages FSU had. For example, Florida State didn't have to travel, and Boise State had a true freshman quarterback. Now, following the game, the backlash and harsh criticism appeared, but Willie Taggart encouraged his men to stay away from the
We round
negativity, and the
South
Noles
Carolina's
passed on
Governor
wins this
Henry
week. James
McMaster
Black
has
and
issued a
UNC had
mandatory
its gut
evacuation
check
order for
time for the night.
830,000 people from the entire coastline, starting also tomorrow Monday at 12 noon.
We know how hard it is to win games. Now we have to make up our minds and let each one of us know what we want to be. And that's a national championship team. This one game can define us.
More college football today. Bethune-Cookman was on national TV today for the MEAC SWAC
And we
Challenge
have
in
that
Atlanta.
earlier. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis posted this on Twitter. That is, as we continue to monitor Dorian, all Floridians should follow local reports and all evacuation orders. We're ready to deploy assets as needed, and we'll continue to monitor traffic and fuel levels as more counties come under hurricane watches and warnings. And of course, having assistance of 38 states, including Canada, including New York, and including Indiana. Let's see what else we see on Twitter. And the time is 10:28 here in New York. As we follow what's going on with Hurricane Dorian. And just a reminder, all mass transit services, like for example, Sunrail, Tri-Rail, Brightline, all those services will be suspended tomorrow. As of links, we're still waiting official word from links if they're going to suspend service or not. And as of airports, we have the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport will cease operation as of 12 noon tomorrow. The time is 10:30 here in New York. In about half an hour from now, we will have the latest the latest update from the National Hurricane Center in Miami.
Local, live, late-breaking, West 2 News on CW18 starts now.
The video of Dorian's destruction in the Bahamas continues coming in tonight. The storm made landfall today as a catastrophic Category 5 hurricane with sustained winds of 185 miles an hour. It's expected to pound the islands with up to 2 days of torrential rain, damaging winds, and storm surge that could reach 23 feet high. After battering the Bahamas, Florida remains in Dorian's cone of uncertainty.
Let's get right over to First Alert Chief Meteorologist Tony Menalfi tracking Hurricane Dorian.
And I tell you what, the very latest tonight is our storm system has been slowing down gradually this afternoon. When you woke up this morning, winds were around 8 miles an hour to the west. Now we're down to 5. And I would argue that it might even be a little bit slower than that now. And with time here, as we go through overnight tonight and tomorrow, you're going to see a slow, gradual turn. And as that front kind of builds in across the mid-Atlantic and the deep south there on Tuesday, it's going to force this storm up towards the north. But the question is, how far west will it get before it moves to the north? And that's what we're trying to figure out right now here with the computer models and everything. The models tonight, again, fairly consistent for the most part. Right there, just offshore, a few of them a little bit closer to the coast, and the H Wharf there again, still wanting to come in near Daytona Beach and Flagler County. It's been the western outlier, though, but the bottom line is at 48 hours, there's a 68-mile wide error in the cone. So any deviation to the west means the core of the strongest winds come closer to the coast, if not onshore. So we're going to play this for you until the storm system passes us over the next couple of days as we keep close tabs on the winds around the eye, extending outward from the center, about 127 miles now due east of the West Palm Beach area. There's the eye, a 3-hour loop, really not moving very quickly off towards the west. Remember, we need this storm to be slow. If it stays slow, it has a chance to be lifted to the north. The biggest concern for us with Dorian, coastal concerns. High flooding rains for now medium. If that storm moves northward more slowly, this becomes red. Tornadoes, threats low, and severe winds medium, but potentially we'll have to watch that one, especially along the coast. The arrival of the tropical storm force winds from south to north in the orange Monday night as we get you into Tuesday along I-4, and then to the north and west Palm Coast up towards the villages in Ocala a little bit later on into Tuesday. Let's take a look now at the latest information on the I-4 corridor. Tropical storm inland watches are up, means tropical storm conditions are possible within the next 48 hours. We'll watch the rain. Again, depending upon the exact track here, could determine whether this gets upgraded or downgraded. More county-by-county forecast coming up here in the next couple minutes, folks.
See you in a bit, Tony. Thanks. As Hurricane Dorian blasts the Bahamas, the island's prime minister says people who did not evacuate face possible catastrophic consequences. NBC's Morgan Chesky has the latest from Nassau.
We are here in Nassau, Bahamas, just outside the Emergency Management Headquarters, where the Prime Minister just finished speaking, opening by saying this is the saddest day he's ever had to address his people. And that's because they're seeing the most powerful hurricane they've seen here in recent history, Hurricane Dorian, roaring ashore in Abaco Islands with winds upwards of 180 to 200-mile-an-hour gusts. And right now, we know that the scene there is dire.
The ocean waves are crashing on the shoreline. Winds are howling like we've never, ever experienced before.
He described Abaco Island as water being pushed inland anywhere from 18 to 22 feet of storm surge in certain areas. It is too late now for people to evacuate from there or in the adjacent island of Grand Bahama. Right now, the only plan is to hunker down and weather out this storm, which looks to be incredibly powerful. But at this point in time, dire situation in the northernmost islands of the Bahamas that look to be hit by Dorian for the next 24 hours or so as this slow-moving storm continues to churn through this area. We'll send it back to you.
Today, President Trump urged people to pray for the Bahamas. He also visited FEMA headquarters for a briefing on Dorian's track. He echoed a message that you've been hearing for days now. If you're told to evacuate, get out.
I ask everyone in Hurricane Dorian's path to heed all warnings and evacuation orders from local authorities. It looks like they're going to have to be giving them, unfortunately, and we should watch. It's been working, it's just been building out there, it's been moving very slowly. It's a bad thing, not a good thing. The slower it moves, the bigger it is and the bigger it gets.
The president also says the federal government is standing by and ready to assist in response and recovery efforts. If you plan to ride out the storm at home, there are some places that you don't want to be.
First Alert meteorologist Eric Burris shows us the best and worst places to ride out a storm inside your home.
Central Florida homes often feature big, beautiful doors or windows like this because 99% of the time, it's a great way to bring in that Central Florida sunshine. But when a storm is threatening us, the doors and windows are the weakest part of your home, and thus, rule number one, when trying to find a safe place, stay away from these as much as you can. So that begs the question, where would be a good, safe place to be during a hurricane? It's not here in the master bedroom, there's windows there, but when you start thinking about getting deep inside the house, you've got your mind in the right place. For example, the master closet. There are no windows around the entire thing. This is the safest spot. The idea is to put as many walls as you can between you and everything outside. But what if you don't have an interior closet? Then the idea would be to try and find the most interior spot in the house, which in this case would be this interior hallway. You just shut all the doors around you and huddle your family in this hallway as far away as you can from the hurricane outdoors. Eric Burris, WESH 2 News.
If you can see glass, you're in the wrong place. As the hurricane approaches, airlines have canceled more than 600 flights. That's according to data from FlightAware. Orlando International Airport has reversed course, now plans to stay open tomorrow. Leaders have previously said all flights after 2 o'clock Monday morning would be canceled. Not so anymore. If you're supposed to be flying in the next couple of days, keep checking with your airline for flight information and for scheduling. The airport says it will post any updates if things change. Orlando Sanford International Airport also changed its plans and is open until further notice. However, Allegiant Airlines has canceled all flights for Monday and Tuesday.
The city of Orlando is waiving fees for 5 parking garages if you need a safe place to leave your car. Those garages include City Commons right off of South Street, the Jefferson Street and Central Boulevard garages, the Orange County Administration Garage along Liberty Avenue, and the Library Garage on Central. Free parking starts at noon tomorrow. Trailers, boats, and vehicles taller than 6 feet 7 inches are not allowed.
With Dorian potentially riding up Florida's Atlantic coast, Georgia and the Carolinas are also in the line of fire. The hurricane is still days away from those states, but people are wasting no time getting prepared. Tonight, South Carolina's governor ordered a mandatory evacuation of the state's entire coast. It goes into effect at noon tomorrow. He says his team is watching around the clock.
We've already begun the movement of people and material and equipment to the places where it needs to be, and whatever happens, we'll be ready.
Says he has activated more than 1,000 members of the South Carolina National Guard ahead of the storm's arrival.
You can't forget about your pets during the storm, so we spoke to Seminole County Animal Services about some things that you should keep in mind. If they're staying at home with you, be sure to have up to a week's worth of food and water. And once the storm is clear, it does not necessarily mean the area around your home will be safe. Make sure that your fencing is secure or keep your dogs on a leash. And if you have outdoor cats, plan on keeping them indoors for a little while.
Keep them in for several days after the storm because there could be debris or things they could get into or piles of rubble or anything like that you don't want your cat climbing around or getting into.
If your preparations take you to a shelter, make sure that it is pet-friendly, and you still need to bring your own food, supplies, and a crate. WESH News is here to help you prepare for any conditions that we may face. As we continue to track Hurricane Dorian, we have several resources for you on WESH.com. From evacuations to shelter information to the impacts that you will see county by county, all of the critical. Be sure to turn on the alerts to make sure that you know right away about any changes in Dorian's forecast or any other important emergency information. Your children may be frightened, and you might not even realize it. What you can tell them now to ease their fears. That's next.
Alright, folks, we're like 19 minutes away from that 11 o'clock update. And we can't stress enough.
Uy, ¿nunca le revisaste el aceite? Vámonos.
Piensa para adelante. Piensa en Advance.
Look at this this graphic that meteorologist Adam Monson posted. Up to now, Dorian is tied in second place with the most sustained wind. They ranked it. Look at this. Hurricane Allen, 1980, 190 miles per hour. Gilbert, 1988, 185 miles per hour. Then we have Wilma, 2005, 185 miles per hour. Then we have Dorian with 185 miles per hour. Then we have Mitch, Rita, Irma, all the way down to Maria. So that's a pretty interesting fact from meteorologist Adam Monson. Meanwhile, Orlando International Airport posted this statement during a State of Florida press conference earlier. A number of airports were named as a result of Hurricane Dorian. One airport mentioned was Melbourne International Airport, which has Orlando International in its name, and as announced, a Monday closure. To avoid confusion, we want to remind the traveling public that Orlando International Airport will continue normal operations Monday, September 2nd. Airport leaders in Wells industry and federal stakeholders will continue to monitor the storm before deciding changes to commercial operations. Travelers are urged to contact their airline directly for the latest information on the status of their respective flights itineraries. And it is 10:45. Let's see if that 11 o'clock update has been posted. Not yet. And also in the Eastern Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Juliet. But ours is Dorian for now. Then we have this disturbance that has a 10% chance of cyclone formation in 48 hours. Then we have this one that has a 60% chance of cyclone formation. Then we have this one right here in the Gulf of Mexico that has 20% of chance of cyclone formation in the next 2 days. So we are waiting for the 11 o'clock news up. So we are waiting for the new advisory that's supposed to come out at 11 o'clock. Sometimes it comes out a little bit earlier. But it hasn't came out yet. And it's 10:47. And our fellow contributor Matt Camper will continue our coverage tomorrow all day. We're having some buffering issues here at the West website.
A little bit higher. There's Palm Coast near 80.
Okay, there we
Daytona
go.
Beach around
It's
76.
kind of blurry now.
And then as the storm pulls down, even at noon on Wednesday, hurricane force winds up there in Palm Coast, and then things slowly calming back down late Wednesday night. A lot more impacts to be expected here across Central Florida.
Plus,
we're taking a look back at
kind
some
of
of the other
blurry.
storms with a similar past across the eastern side of the Florida.
We're having issues with the West 2 News feed.
Concern steps in. All brevity aside, though, it is still a concerning situation here in Deerfield Beach. It's the only place here in Broward County that is currently under a tropical storm warning. The rest of Broward Counties and points south is under a watch. You step maybe half a mile north, however, in Boca Raton, Palm Beach County, that is where that hurricane watch is. We stepped by a few of the houses here, and there's a lot that have their storm shutters up. This gentleman that you see on your screen was one of the guys that we talked to. He said he's been living in this house here in Deerfield Beach for the last 30 years. He's been through Wilma. He's been through Andrew. You name the storm. He says that he has prepared for it. But this storm is the one that made him get shutters as opposed to plywood since that 2005 hurricane season.
In the sense of knowing whether or not it's going to directly hit, there's never really an idea until it does actually hit landfall. And the closer it does get to landfall, of course, the closer we get more worried. But at the same time, we always just, hope for the best. We prepare for the worst. That's basically what we have to do, regardless.
Heard that from a lot of people wherever you go up along the east coast of Florida. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Yesterday we saw the mayor here in Deerfield Beach handing out sandbags to different people who might not have been able to leave their homes, elderly couples who needed sandbags. And so the situation here is one of concern, as there's been a lot of questions over where exactly that cone of concern would be. And here they said that, we wanted to make sure that everything we had is set. So in case things do happen to deteriorate as the conditions are supposed to tomorrow, know. We are prepared. Public works here in Deerfield Beach have also been shut off, parks, all that, as they are ready to embrace for what Dorian is expected to give. Reporting live tonight from Deerfield Beach, Dan Grossman, NBC6 News.
All right, Dan, thank you so much. It is 10:50 on Sunday night, and we are under a special coverage tracking Hurricane Dorian. We're waiting to hear the latest advisory, the 11 p.m. advisory that is set to come out in just a few moments. Of course, as soon as that happens, we will bring it to you live.
Yeah, we'll have Chief Meteorologist John Morales come out here and digest and dissect everything that's happening with it. Up until now, the system hasn't done a lot of changes, still holding those very strong winds of 185 miles per hour. And then also, I guess the pressure did go up a little bit from 910 millibars to 915, but it's really slowed down to 5 miles per hour. And you can see it behind us. It's still, Dorian's just a formidable storm.
It is, and I think what's striking to all of us as we've been watching this and tracking Dorian is the fact that it really hasn't moved much for much of the day. So you can imagine that this powerful Category 5 hurricane with this monster storm with such high winds has just been battering the Bahamas for hours now.
And some of the video we've been getting out of there is pretty harrowing. Well, Comcast has announced that it will open free Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots statewide to help residents and emergency personnel stay connected and Hurricane Dorian as it heads up the coast. So they're going to open those up so you can use those just in case you lose your own service. Now, the company is opening close to 200,000 hotspots throughout Florida, and this service will be for anyone that needs it. You don't have to be a Comcast or an Xfinity customer. And of course, it is free to you. Now, if you need to know how to connect to one of the free hotspots, we have all that information for you in the hurricane section of the NBC6 website. And we do want to disclose that Comcast is the parent company of NBC and NBC6.
Yeah, and AT&T is waiving overage charges, giving unlimited talk, text, and data for customers in the affected areas through September 8th. T-Mobile has recovery equipment, including generators and community response trucks, ready should they be needed in the aftermath of Dorian. And Verizon has backup power so that their network can continue to operate in case there are power outages. Verizon also has prearranged ongoing fuel deliveries to those generators. So if power is out for a long period of time, they will still be able to help keep customers connected.
And Florida Power and Light says it's ready to respond as Dorian approaches Florida. FPL warns that Dorian's impacts may cause significant damage that could require crews to repair large parts of the energy grid. The company has assembled the largest pre-storm restoration workforce in its history, with approximately 16,000 workers ready to respond, including FPL employees and workers from other utilities, not even from this state, but really around the country, and electrical contracting companies. Now, FPL says that due to the uncertainty in Dorian's track and the intensity of the storm, it is impossible to predict how many FPL customers may lose power. The company says you can download the FPL app by texting the word app to MyFPL or enroll in alerts by texting the word join to MyFPL.
And of course, power outages is something we've been talking about as a possibility here, a very real possibility as Hurricane Dorian continues to get closer to Florida. We have posted all of these resources online. You can check that out on NBC6.com. And also, if you have the NBC6 app, you can check them out there. We're trying to make this as easy for you as possible so that you can get the information that you need, not only tonight, but that you may need in the coming days.
Well, earlier today, we spoke on the phone with Florida's Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez, and here's what she had to say.
Well, we have pre-positioned assets throughout the state in strategic locations, everywhere from down south in Miami to up north in the Panhandle. We have also working very closely with our federal partners. Earlier today, the governor had a press conference call with President Trump, FEMA, U.S. Department of Transportation, Department of Health and Human Services. And so we are extremely prepared. We have everything that we could possibly need to including water, meals, search and rescue teams, hazmat teams, you name it. We've got it all. The governor has done an excellent job of making sure that we have every resource available to us.
So obviously the state of Florida is doing what it can to make sure that we are prepared for any potential impacts that we may see from Hurricane Dorian. But no doubt our neighbors, the Bahamas, the islands are getting battered tonight.
Oh, they've just been hammered in. We're going to listen in right now to a family. They're actually praying in the bathroom as water seeps through. So here's the video right here, and it's just harrowing.
Yeah, this is video. I don't know if you can hear it.
It's hard for you to hear, but what's going on is they are basically praying. Part of the roof has been damaged. Furniture is turned over. You can see the roof has collapsed. The place is in shambles, and water has come into the home, but they're sticking together. They're all huddled in the bathroom for the most part, and just hoping that things will get better soon and that Dorian will lift off of their part of the island.
We also want to go to another video now where you can see debris scattered across the front yards of several homes there. There's also downed power lines and light poles. The devastation truly is remarkable there. You can even see some cars damaged. And this is just a snippet, a taste of what we will likely be seeing more of as video from the Bahamas continues to come into our newsroom, so we can get a real sense of just how extensive the damage is after Hurricane Dorian has made its way through there.
And I feel for those people, especially tonight. They're in the dark. This storm is still lashing the area and just penetrating the area, and it must just be a living nightmare to be there tonight in the dark with probably most of the power lines down.
And we are also, if you have family members there, we want to show you another video that's come in. People in trucks and tractor trailers in the area, more down trees. Just again, a sense, just so you can get a sense of the situation there. You know, when you see this monster storm just hovering over the Bahamas, you can imagine that this is what we would see when we would start to see video coming in from the islands. And now that we're seeing it, it's becoming a very real reality, just how extensive the damage has been. You know, if you have family in the Bahamas, we just want you to know that we are with you. We are thinking of you and sending positive thoughts your way as you wait to connect with your family members and try to find out how they are doing tonight.
And of course, hopefully people are staying inside because, again, this storm is still there. It hasn't lifted off of the island, so they still need to exercise an abundant amount of caution. We've seen so many people outside, you know, taking pictures. You know, it's great to get the video, but we'd rather you be okay. So please stay inside. If you take video and you're going to send it to us, take it from safely inside your dwelling.
And again, we are waiting for that 11 o'clock advisory. As soon as we get that, we will bring it to you. But we're going to take a quick break right now, and we will be right back in just a few moments as we continue our special coverage tracking Hurricane Dorian as it makes its way through the Bahamas. We'll be right back.
So now we have NBC6 and West 2, all of it together.
It is a special Labor Day edition, and the morning team rolls out straight up at 4 a.m.
We're always on at WESH.com or the WESH 2 News app.
We are back with another hour of Hurricane Dorian coverage right here on WESH 2.
Let's see, it's 11:59. All right, we have the 11 o'clock update. We have the 11 o'clock update. And here is the following coordinates. 20, epic fail. Why is this 8? It should be 11. It should be 11. Oh well, let's read the public advisory. Okay, according to the public advisory, the storm is
Now at 11, a storm of historic proportions is slowly moving through the Atlantic.
The storm is right now on the latitude 26.6 north, 77.9 west, about 55 miles east of Freeport, Grand Bahama, 135 miles east of West Palm Beach. At least in terms of sustained winds, it decreased 5 miles per hour. It picked up 1 mile per hour in terms of movement, and the pressure is going up. So now let's hear
Historic
NBC6's John
hurricane,
Morales.
tied for the second strongest in the Atlantic Basin in terms of wind speed. You can see it moving towards the west generally over the last several hours, but at a very painstakingly slow pace because it's only moving at about 5 miles per hour. Here is the 11 p.m. advisory in detail. Winds now down nominally to 180 mile per hour sustained winds. That means, by the way, that instead of the winds being able to gust to 220 miles per hour and above, as was the case when the winds were sustained at 185, now they can gust to 215 miles per hour and above. It's just a surreal, unreal situation for our friends in the Abacos as well as in Grand Bahama tonight. The pressure holding steady ish. It was 915 millibars before. It has dropped 1 millibar since. And as far as the motion, well, west at 6 miles per hour, slightly faster, 1 mile per hour faster than the movement it's had during the majority of this evening. It's been holding steady at 26.6 degrees north latitude, and we've been watching it moving straight towards the west. It is basically a beam, as you can see, West Palm Beach at this hour. So if it were to go all the way west at this slow pace, taking probably until Tuesday to get there, well, it would get to Palm Beach County, wouldn't it? But it is expected to turn, and it will turn. The question is, what will the character of that turn be? So let me show you then on the new 11 p.m. advisory how or what that cone of concern looks like according to the National Hurricane Center. Cat 5 through the Bahamas and then making that gradual turn towards the north, all the while keeping this cone of concern away from the coastline. So neither Broward nor Miami-Dade are in that cone of concern, but big questions here about what's going to happen. Is it going to be closer to, say, the Martin County area, St. Lucie, or is it going to get into communities like Vero Beach up the coast, Cocoa Beach? Will it hit the area near Titusville or further north, Flagler Beach, Daytona? We don't know. It could be slightly offshore. It could be slightly closer to the shoreline, and that's the big-time question mark tonight as to what the nature of the turn is going to be, how sharp it's going to be. But turn, it will. Now, let's take a look at what some of the factors influencing this expected turn are. You know, we've been looking at this ridge of high pressure that has been blocking its potential progress towards the north. At the same time, this ridge is starting to be eroded by this weakness in between the ridge. You see how there's basically nothing there? Well, up there in the northern section of the U.S. is a dip in the jet stream that's headed this way. And that continues to cause this upper and mid-level high to weaken and erode further towards the east. So what's expected to happen as this dip arrives, this opens up the door for a northward turn. And as I said, there could be a difference in the nature of that turn. If this high erodes so quickly, then you'll see a faster turn towards the north further offshore. But if the high holds just slightly and this dip in the jet stream isn't enough, then the turn is going to be more gradual and will have parts of the east coast of Florida be threatened by that hurricane. So the options really are not all that far from each other, but obviously the impacts would be immensely different for each one of these three. Because if it's this track, then you might imagine we're going to have a major hurricane, kind of like Matthew did in 2016, skirting along the east coast of Florida and wreaking havoc with a storm surge that will be very high as well as a lot of rainfall and the wind. If it's further offshore,
well, we pray for our Bahamian friends, but other than that, it would head up, hopefully to continue to recurve and head out to sea, although I will tell you that the Carolinas are still in play in terms of the threat here. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned that I want to make sure that I do mention this evening is the fact that why are we not talking about storm surge? And why are we not talking about rainfall? We've been talking a lot about wind, but I have hardly mentioned anything about storm surge or rain. Well, the reason for that, as you look at the circulation of this hurricane, remember, it's a counterclockwise circulation. As the hurricane heads towards the west and then northwest, it already is north of our latitude. And what's going to happen is we're going to have westerly offshore winds. There is no chance whatsoever that we're going to have easterly onshore winds that would drag water towards our coastline here in South Florida, in Broward and Miami-Dade. There's no risk of storm surge in Broward and Miami-Dade. As far as the rainfall, well, the driest side of this hurricane is the southwestern side. So we are expecting showers. There will be squalls, but they're not expected to be terrible in terms of rainfall accumulation. We might get a couple of inches of rain, maybe 4 at the most, which is not all that much compared to a couple of summer days here in South Florida, right? But the squalls will be gusty, and you will notice them as they come through. All right, now, when you look at this closely, you'll always see some wobbles as the hurricane moves along. You know, for a while, it looked like it might be moving south of due west. Now, in the last couple of frames, it looks like it's moving straight to the west or even north of due west. Bottom line is it's going to wobble along, but generally, it's an average movement towards the west at about 5 miles per hour tonight on this hurricane. Now, let's talk about the closest point of approach of the hurricane to South Florida, because that's not going to happen tonight. It's not going to happen tomorrow during the daytime. It's going to happen tomorrow night because it's moving so slowly. So I set this in motion, and I'll show you what that closest point of approach is going to be. And we're talking about late night Monday into the early morning hours of Tuesday. Call it between 2 and 5 a.m. And at that closest point of approach, it would be 85 miles from Deerfield Beach. You notice how the winds to tropical storm force at that time would be offshore South Florida. They would not be impacting the metro area. No, they wouldn't do it during the day. They wouldn't do it tomorrow night. They wouldn't do it on Tuesday as we set this in motion, and it continues to move on towards the north, further away from South Florida. However, I've been talking about, okay, well, what if the forecast from the National Hurricane Center, which, by the way, has been extremely accurate in terms of track all the way from the time it left the Caribbean up to tonight, if that forecast was incorrect, there is a worst-case scenario that's important for me to show you. And to get that graphic on air, I think I need to move over here to make sure that I do put that graphic on air, because I want to show you the worst-case scenario that is right here in my show. So let's stop the show, and let's bring this graphic up right here. And we'll put this up here, and we'll set play again. All right. There's your worst-case scenario map. If the forecast is wrong from the National Hurricane Center, the area that you see in red, this area here in red, could potentially see winds of up to 110 miles per hour. Okay? And that is why throughout the day I've been communicating to people in coastal Palm Beach County from Delray Beach north, as well as the rest of the coastline all the way up to past the Space Coast, that you need to board up your homes. You need to put the shutters up, because the forecast isn't for this to happen. However, if we're wrong, this could happen, right? There's not a high chance of this happening, but even a little chance of something really bad, you have to prepare for. So looking at the worst case scenarios, zooming in a little bit, you see these coastal locations in particular are places where you really need to take all those precautions. As a matter of fact, that is why there is a hurricane warning in effect from Jupiter Inlet, which is at the line between Palm Beach and Martin counties. That's where the hurricane warning starts. And it continues up the coast, all the way to the Daytona area and beyond, to the Flagler, Volusia County line. That's where the hurricane warning ends. Further to the south, what we have is a hurricane watch for Palm Beach County, a tropical storm watch for Broward County, and nothingness across Dade. There's no type of advisory whatsoever in Miami-Dade County. What's our worst case scenario? If the forecast is wrong and the intensity or the track or the radius of maximum winds changes, and we've totally screwed up, including the forecasters at the Hurricane Center at the National Weather Service, then this is what would happen. You would have winds of 58 to 73 miles per hour in north and northeastern Broward County, so from Parkland to Deerfield Beach, down south to Fort Lauderdale proper, those communities you'd see a high-end tropical storm, and the rest of Broward down into Miami-Dade, you would get a low-end tropical storm with winds of 39 to 57 miles an hour. I repeat, that is not the actual forecast for tomorrow night, or Tuesday. That is the worst-case scenario for tomorrow night, and Tuesday. The actual forecast for tomorrow night, and Tuesday, Ryan Phillips is preparing, and he's going to have that for you at the bottom of the hour. So, in summary, we're good. We're good here in South Florida. We are thinking about our friends in the northern Bahamas and that nightmare they're living through tonight, but we're good in terms of the safety of our family and our households in Miami-Dade and in Broward County. If you're streaming us, if you're watching us somehow up the coast from Palm Beach County and points north, well, there's some reason to worry. But there's not a lot of reason to worry down here, okay? And there's no shutters that need to be put up. And if you live in Broward County in a mobile home, worry a little bit. Get to a safer place. Mobile homes are not all that good. You know this. I'm not trying to diss your home, okay? But the truth is that they're very, very weak, and it's not a good place to be, even in just a tropical storm condition, in a worst-case scenario, as I've explained before. But overall, it's a good situation for South Florida. It's not going to turn to the southwest. It's not coming this way. And Ryan will have those specifics for you in just a few minutes.
We can't wait. John, thank you so much for that perspective.
We are obviously in a pretty good situation right now and a good outlook for us, but in the Bahamas, they're going through a really difficult time tonight, and that's why Laura Rodriguez is here. You've been following the videos, these incredible videos that have been coming in, showing the extent of the destruction on the islands.
I have, and after monitoring the situation there for hours, all day, it's evident that Hurricane Dorian has really wreaked havoc, specifically in the Abaco Islands.
All right, you guys heard John Morales from NBC6.
News happens right here in the cities, the suburbs, and neighborhoods we call home.
Live in Orange County.
Brevard County. In Lake
We're
County.
live in Volusia County.
Every day, we seek the news, get answers, reveal the truth. Every day, we search for the sunshine, chase storms, help plan your day.
Sunrise is live. We are live.
Every day, stories live to be told, and we're here to tell them. Wesh 2 News, local, live, late breaking.
Grab a seat on the sofa, watch it all play out. If you wanna have a good time, you gotta laugh and
So
shout.
at least things in South Florida are not looking as bad as in Central Florida. And north. But you never know what's going to happen. Let's see if now they posted on the graphics. Okay, here it is. Let's go to the interactive one to see up to where now the cone of concern goes to. See, now, let's say half of Kissimmee is covered, Orlando is covered. Jacksonville is covered. Hinesville is covered. Savannah. Let's see. Raleigh is covered. Virginia Beach. Half of Richmond is covered. Salisbury. Now even parts of New Jersey are inside this cone of concern, like parts of Toms River, Seaside Heights, Point Pleasant, Manasquan, Surf City, Washington Township, Lakewood, and Long Branch. And barely, let's say barely, misses the Fire Islands. Including Asbury Park is in that cone of concern. In other words, Ocean County, parts of Monmouth County in New Jersey, Burlington County in New Jersey, Atlantic City, Vineland, Cumberland County in Jersey, Cape May, Ocean City is inside that that cone of concern right now. That's for our fellow contributor Andy Gramdenus. That is inside of the cone of concern. But let's continue with
about 12 to 24 hour time. Slow it down and start that turn.
Yeah, and you know the forecast is for that to start to happen tomorrow. So let's take a look at that cone and show you that bend there.
Because we need two things to happen here in the next about 12 to 24 hour time. Slow it down and start that turn.
Yeah, and you know the forecast is for that to start to happen tomorrow. So let's take a look at that cone and show you that bend there in the cone from the National Hurricane Center as of the 11 o'clock advisory. And you can see what's going on. There is the extent of the westward motion and then beginning to slowly and gradually make that trek towards the west-northwest tomorrow, then more towards the northwest there as we get you on into Tuesday, paralleling the coast there on Tuesday afternoon and evening. But with each passing hour that it goes more to the west, it means this storm will ultimately be closer to the coast. So we're going to have to watch the trends here as we get very early in the morning tomorrow. That will give us a good gauge of just how far west I think this is going to go. With the new update, by the way, tropical storm watch is now all the way up towards Jacksonville. As we take a look at the watches, we have hurricane watches all the way up towards Jacksonville, the eastern side, towards the coastal side, and here into Volusia County and Flagler County. Both of you are again now in the hurricane watch. Flagler County, you were added in the warnings. That means you typically have about 36 hours before hurricane force winds begin to enter your area. Let's take a look now. There's the cone, and there's the movement of the storm, still moving off towards the west there. It's a long loop, moving west at about 6 miles an hour. Closer inspection shows the eye on the Miami radar. just kind of drifting off towards the west. Maybe even someone can make the argument west-southwest. We'll have to wait and see if that's a wobble there. Satellite presentation shows an up, a down, and then back towards the west movement there. 118 miles now due east of West Palm Beach. The wave action, incredible with this Category 5 storm. All of that energy, wave action now headed towards the coast here in central Florida and up towards the southeast as well. Storm surge watches now up for Volusia and Flagler counties. Storm surge warnings have not changed since earlier this afternoon as of the 5 o'clock advisory. And the potential storm surge now, we'll have to watch this. This is going to creep to the north, but Eric, looking at about 4 to 7 feet.
And that, of course, could be a real big problem for folks that live beachside. What we want to do now is talk about when you should start thinking about those impacts heading your direction, all right? So take a look. We'll start in Brevard County, where Monday evening, as in less than 24 hours from now, you can expect tropical storm conditions to begin. And then, of course, hurricane conditions would be on set after that. Areas highlighted in yellow here from Daytona Beach to New Smyrna, back over to Orlando, the metro area. If you're in from out of town around the attractions, you're right here, right near the Four Corners there, all right? For you, it's going to be Tuesday morning, early, around sunrise or so, and then further to the north, Flagler County, back over to the Villages and Marion County, it's going to be Tuesday evening for you, okay? Want to show you a couple of the computer forecast models just to give you an idea. This is Melbourne, for example. What we're looking at, the higher it is, the stronger the winds. The further to the right, the further through time. So, for example, this yellow, that's the American. The pink is going to be the European model. And you notice how much higher the American model is giving winds here in Melbourne, for example, up to near 80 miles an hour, for example, Tuesday into Wednesday, whereas not only is the European model a little bit lower with the winds, but it's also a little bit later. So that also shows you that the computer models are not terribly aligned just yet. Same thing here for Flagler Beach, just to give you an idea. Both models are putting you at near hurricane force winds. The timing is either early Wednesday, or according to the, say, European model, it would be more like noon Wednesday. So for you, you're now added to that hurricane watch over the next couple of days. Hurricane conditions are possible for you in Flagler County, but the same thing is true down into Volusia and down into Brevard County. Storm surge, as Tony mentioned, 4 to 7 feet possible, and that's on top of a high tide already. So you have to start thinking about erosion, and of course, we remember what happened during Matthew. This could be a very similar scenario. Inland, Osceola County, this includes the tourist district, Kissimmee, St. Cloud, but is also very similar to Orange and Seminole counties. Tropical storm force conditions, we're talking about winds running 40, 50, even 60 miles an hour, dependent on the actual track. And then for Sumter County, but this would also be similar for Lake and Marion County, tropical storm force wind gusts possible for you. So the timeline again, Labor Day, it's going to start late in the evening along our East Coast areas, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, those are what we call weather alert days, meaning those are days where the weather is going to be very, very serious depending on Dorian's actual path, Tony.
And I tell you what, we've got plenty more local graphics for you on Dorian as we get you ready for what is going to be a very busy next 48 hours. You're watching Watch 2 News at 11.
Do you push through migraine? Imagine what you can do with more migraine-free days.
Well, as of South Florida, things are looking okay. But our concern right now is Central Florida and North Florida.
Allergic reactions like itching, rash, hives, and trouble breathing can occur even days after use. Get medical help right away if you have symptoms. Side effects include injection site reactions. What should we do tomorrow? Ask your doctor about Emgality and imagine more migraine-free days.
Hyundai has a family of green vehicles that don't compromise style or performance.
Now get an Ioniq Electric for $139 a month, or lease an Ioniq Hybrid for $159 a month. Hurry, offers end soon.
Three words, the most accurate. And only one Central Florida weather team can claim it. That's right, Wesh 2 First Alert Weather. Most accurate, now for 12 years straight. Certified, verified, undenied. Who else can say that?
Look how far
Because accuracy matters. Rely on Tony, Amy, and the WESH 2 First Alert Weather Team. Local, live, late breaking.
Justice has come to Central Florida.
Right now we have a tropical storm watch in effect
I'm John Walsh. Join me on Central Florida's new Justice Network.
from the Miami Broward borderline.
Justice is served 24/7 on
We'll
Central
say
Florida's
from
all-new Justice
Aventura
Network. Channel 18.2,
all the way to
Spectrum
Deerfield
466.
Beach. We have a tropical storm warning for Deerfield Beach and a hurricane watch in effect from Boca Raton all the way to Boynton Beach.
Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper.
And then points north, you know what's going to happen.
Great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
But as John Morales indicated earlier,
Sponsored by Mullinax Ford.
Well, it
the
didn't seem possible for Florida State's opener to go worse than last year's,
point of
but the Noles
uncertainty
found a
right
way.
now
On Saturday, FSU blew an 18-point
West
lead.
Palm
They didn't
Beach.
score in the second half at all and lost 36-31 to Boise State. A meltdown made worse
Let's
by
say
the
half
Trinity.
and half. But we will have to see what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen on Tuesday, and so on. So the intermediate update will be at 2 in the morning. And then the full update will be at 5 a.m. So that being said, we want to thank everybody for joining us. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good night, everybody.